Our week's reading this morning is titled, Does God Hide the Truth? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In last week's reading, we saw that the great masters themselves counsel discretion in the dissemination of truth. The counter-argument is sometimes made, but the Lord doesn't hide. He reveals His beauty in the sunsets, His tender sympathy in the rain, His wrath in the thunder, His restless energy in the brooks, His power in the sunlight. There are exoteric truths, and there are also esoteric truths. There is that which is revealed impersonally and is left up to us to interpret, such as the thunder and our perception of it as divine wrath, the rain and our perception of it as God's sympathy. But behind even God's most open expressions, there lies impenetrable mystery. The wind blows where it wills, said Jesus in the chapter 3 of the Gospel of St. John. You hear the sound of it, but you do not know where it comes from or where it is going. So is everyone who is born of the Spirit. And Sri Krishna says in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, by me, the whole vast universe of things is spread abroad. By me, the unmanifest. In me are all existences contained, not I in them. God's hidden reality cannot be understood by the reasoning faculty. India's Shankya philosophy states frankly, Ishwar Ashidha, God is not provable. A willingness to see the underlying reality behind appearances is essential for those who would know God. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
This is a reading from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. O divine sculptor, chisel thou my life. Every sound that I make, let it have the vibration of thy voice. Every thought that I think, let it be saturated with the consciousness of thy presence. Let every feeling that I have glow with thy love. Let every act of my will be impregnated with thy divine vitality. Let every thought, every expression, every ambition be ornamented by thee. O divine sculptor, chisel thou my life according to thy design. Om. Amen. The subject today is, does God hide the truth? And when you think about it, that's the real problem, isn't it? That's kind of the nub of the issue of why we suffer, why we are in delusion, and also the answer as to how to get out. There's an old story about when God created this universe and this earth and created all humankind to populate it. The angels were having a meeting with God about the nature of this universe, and God decided, well, I'd like to hide the truth and hide myself somewhere in this creation where my children will have a very difficult time finding it. And eventually they will find it, but let's make it as challenging as possible. And so let's figure out a place to hide myself and hide the truth. And so God had an idea, and he said, I think what we'll do I'll hide myself in the farthest galaxies, way beyond the stars, in the farthest reaches of the universe. And the angels thought about it, and they knew a little bit more about this creation maybe than God did for some reason. And they said, well, you know, these people are very curious and inquisitive, and they're always looking out through this universe. They'll come up with telescopes and spaceships, and they'll go seeking the truth and trying to find the answers in the farthest reaches of the universe. So that probably won't work very well. And so God said, well, what if I hide it in the deepest part of the ocean, the darkest, deepest depths, where no one will ever see it? And the angels thought, and he said, you know, I think people are going to figure that out too easily too. They'll build submarines and they'll go diving. They'll be looking everywhere for this truth. And so God was finally stumped, and he said, well, where do you think I should hide myself and hide this truth? And the angel said, well, there's one place that humans are not going to look very easily, very quickly. In fact, it's probably the last place that they're going to look. And that place is within their very own selves. Hide yourself, Lord, within each person. And that's probably the last place that they'll look. And this, in a way, describes the path of Ananda, what Yogananda taught, which is that we've all been seeking truth, we've been seeking fulfillment, we've been seeking the fulfillment of our happiness and our dreams outside of ourselves. And I think we've all looked beyond the farthest stars in the ocean, in matter, in nature, everywhere. And by now, by coming to a place like Ananda and starting to follow Yogananda's teachings and at least listen a little bit to him, we realize that this truth has to be found inside of ourselves. And in a way, this is the path of Ananda, is seeking this truth within. When I first came to Ananda many years ago, it was about 30-some years ago, and when I arrived, the fire had just come through Ananda. There was nothing here except basically charred trees, hardly any buildings. All the houses and everything had burnt down. And if I had looked outwardly at sort of the potential of this place, with a few ragtag people here trying to put something back together, I probably wouldn't have stuck around very long. And I was very fortunate in that I really felt deeply inwardly, and I was tuning in inwardly. And this is how I think many of us here probably relate to life now. I was tuning in inwardly, and I felt this is my home. These are the people I want to follow, these gurus here, and these are the people I want to do it with. Even though it doesn't look so great right now, I felt, you know, there's something very, very powerful here, and I want to take part in this. And I remember one of my earlier years at Ananda, I think maybe even my first year, I was working in the garden. And there was a tour after Sunday service, just like we still have this very day. Nothing has changed in some ways. And part of the tour was to show that this spiritual life and the life of yoga is for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. We're all normal people here, and we're just having a deep inward life. And so they were bringing the tour. It was my day to work in the garden and water the garden. And the tour came around this old barn building, and I came around the barn building, and there I was wearing a ratty t-shirt with holes in it, a straw hat that was all torn to shreds, barefoot, very long hair. If I had sort of blackened a couple of my front teeth and put some fake freckles on me, I would have completed the picture, but it probably didn't even need that. And here was this garden tour showing how, yes, yoga is for even you, coming from the suburbs of the city. And then they ran into me. And, I sort of turned around the corner and went to the garden. I could hear the person leading the tour, kind of very graciously, but letting these people know, kind of like, well, that was one of the gardeners. We're not all like that. But if those people were tuning in inwardly, as we all should throughout our lives, of course they would see that God is here, there is truth here, joy here. And that's also what I felt. The very first moment I stepped on Ananda property, I looked in the eyes of the people I met, and I thought, these people have something that I want. And again, I wasn't looking at them outwardly. I was feeling this divine joy deep inside each and every one of them. Nowadays, the temptation is probably even a little different. Some of us are a little more presentable than we were 30 years ago, and the place is all gussied up and nice buildings and everything looks nice. And so there may be a temptation to look at how nice it is outwardly. But get past that temptation and really close your eyes and try to tune into Ananda, to the people here especially, to what you feel. Go deep within and try to go to the source of this beauty and this joy that you see outwardly. One time somebody was about to go on a pilgrimage to India, and they asked Swami Kriyananda, what's the best way to experience and to understand India? Because they really wanted to get the most out of their pilgrimage. And his answer was very, very interesting. He said the best way to experience India is with your eyes closed. In other words, he was telling them, don't go looking here and there and for this colorful sadhu and this beautiful scene and all this incredible outward stuff. He was saying, close your eyes and meditate. Tune deep within, and when you feel the deep vibration that finds outward expression in outward beauty, then you will have that source of inspiration. You will know how to get that source whenever you want to. And that really is the essence of the spiritual path as we practice it at Ananda. So I would even recommend, for those of you who are here this coming week at Spiritual Renewal Week, we have so many outward events and activities and all these different things that we do. Spend time tuning in inwardly, not even just during meditation, but even stop during a very outward event. I remember last year we had our Indian banquet, which is the very end of the week. And it's a very celebratory time, a lot of great food and great company and talking. And I remember just sitting there, and I shut my eyes in the midst of all this and just really tried to tune in. I felt such a deep, deep, profound joy inside. And I could hear people talking, and it was just like divine music of all these people talking. But the talking and the joy and the outward celebration was an outer manifestation of a divine joy that was much, much deeper and much more powerful. And both are wonderful. But always go deeper and try to tune into the source. Because when you are able, over time, to tune into that source more and more, you will have it with you all the time, under all circumstances. You see this in the lives of the great saints and the masters. It doesn't matter what's happening outside. They understood a long time ago. What's important is what's happening inside. And because they recognize that and have done the hard work and the meditation and the selflessness and the self-sacrifice, they understand that divine joy is always there within us, no matter what is going on outside of yourself. We have this beautiful thing that was begun by Swami Kriyananda just in the last year, which is the Nayaswami order, which is a renunciate order. And really, this is about inner renunciation. Many renunciate orders are about more of an outer renunciation, which there's certain spiritual romance about the outer renunciation. But really, for people who have tried to practice renunciation, realize that the rubber hits the road, in a sense, when it comes down to the day-to-day reactions that we have in ego. There are likes and dislikes and all the things that keep us bound to ego. I remember an example of this many years ago of someone who just had this thought of the outer form, which is also nice, but they didn't understand the inner. And it just also is a good example of how much Ananda has changed over the years. I think it was my very first Spiritual Renewal Week. And I don't know how many years we've been doing Spiritual Renewal Week. It must be close to 40 years. Does anybody know? Nope. It's close to 40 years, but this was probably about 33 or 34 years ago. In those days, Swami Kriyananda would do all the morning classes. And he was doing the morning class before a very large crowd, just very similar to this, up at our meditation retreat. And right in the middle of his talk, this man started walking up the middle of the aisle towards Swami Kriyananda. And he had not a stitch on. He was completely naked. He had his clothes in his hands. He had just shaved his head. And he had this idea that outer renunciation is the way to go. And he was inspired perhaps by the life of St. Francis. And fortunately we had some people, Ananda people, kind of hustle him off to the side before he could actually go all the way up to the stage and present Swami with his clothes and everyone else with his appearance. But inner renunciation is really the way to true freedom. And this is the whole idea behind the Nayaswami order that Swamiji has talked about. There's a book that Swami has written that is not very well read because many people think it doesn't apply to them. And the book is called Sadhu Beware. And it's really about this inner renunciation. And I would highly recommend, if you haven't read that book, it's a handbook on everything from relationships to marriage to renunciation. All these things are covered in that book because it really gets to the very core of why we suffer, which is our attachment to ego and what's going on inside rather than what's going on outside. And so really start to look at our spiritual life, at everything that we do. Reflect inwardly when things happen to you. If you find an unpleasant situation, don't blame it on the situation. Look within and see, maybe my reaction to it is what's unpleasant. You'll see that the lives of the saints, the lives of the masters, are really full of examples of great outward difficulty, challenge, persecution, but really deep, deep inward joy and inspiration, and really being one with divine joy. And this comes with living an inner spiritual life. So this week, if you're staying for Spiritual Renewal Week, really take time during all the outer activities just to pause at times and really just close your eyes and try to feel the divine joy underneath all this outward joy. When you're listening to Swami Kriyananda give one of his talks, rather than just looking at him and just intellectually or rationally listening to the words, close your eyes, meditate, try to feel what he is feeling inside. One time, not too long ago, I work with Ananda's Kriya Sangha, which helps to share the techniques and the meditation practices that we practice here at Ananda. And Swami Kriyananda said something interesting. He said that attunement and discipleship to a guru is more important than techniques and practices. And what he was really saying, in the deepest sense, is that what's going on inside in terms of just when we meditate, when we open ourselves, when we listen, and when we tune ourselves to what's underlying this outer reality, that's really when we get the most. And that's when we really change. And so, in one sense, he was saying, it's the vibration and the magnetism of a great saint or a master that really changes us in the end, not just our efforts and our practices. And it's the same with being at a place like Ananda. Close your eyes. When you go out in nature sometime, and those of you who may not be here this week, and you see a beautiful sunset, close your eyes and try to feel it inwardly. Bharat did a wonderful exercise one time with some people who he took on one of his nature programs. And they took them to the Grand Canyon, which is just the most expansive, beautiful, sort of ego-dissolving place you can possibly be in a physical sense. And what he did was very interesting. He put blindfolds on everybody, and then they drove up to the edge of the canyon with their blindfolds on, and they sat and meditated with the blindfolds on. And they found that they really deeply tuned in to this expansion without even seeing it. And in a way, they actually tuned to it more deeply than if they had just opened their eyes and said, ooh, ah, look how vast it is and how big it is. And so take this lesson and this understanding into every aspect of your life. When you have challenges, when you have difficulties, but also when you have joys and outward beautiful things happening in your life. Look to the source of it. Go inside. You'll find that when you do this more and more, that source of inspiration, of divine joy, is always there all the time. Swamiji has been talking a lot in last couple years about our nature as divine bliss. And he's talking about how much he feels this divine bliss and how it's the nature of this bliss just to want to share and expand with everyone. So again, those of you who are here this week, when you're meditating here, when you're listening to Swami Kriyananda, try to listen and tune into that divine bliss. You'll find that when you make it a practice of listening, feeling, trying to tune yourself to who and what we really are, which is divine joy, that more and more you're always able to access that divine joy. It's always there. We don't always see it. And you'll find that, as the reading today said, God is not provable. God can't be proven with the rational mind. We can't convince someone that God is real, but God can be found. And the way to find God is to go within, to reflect within whenever we see outer things, to try to understand and experience and meditate, be still. You'll find that God can be found. You'll find that many people here have found God, have had that deep experience of divine bliss. And when you nurture and look in that direction more and more, you'll find that over time you will find God. And that's perhaps the greatest lesson of all these years of Ananda's existence, is seeing people live that every day of their lives and actually have that divine experience and become transformed by that. So blessings to you. Take these teachings deep within, feel divine bliss within, listen for God within, and throughout all the activities of life, go within and try to feel that joy underneath. And as you do this more and more, you will find it always available to you. So blessings.